your right to know. Your right to know. Your right to know what to do. Know what to see. Know what we have in store for you. It's your right to know.
Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking on Right to Know about Hillary Clinton's and Bill Clinton and what they've brought to our country in the terms of graft, corruption, murder. And you'll see by the end of this why neither one of those should ever step foot near the White House again. As a matter of fact, you'll see why they should both be in federal prison right this minute. So without further ado, let's start into the clip. It's going to be a little longer. This is a clip off a documentary about the Clintons, and you're going to be quite horrified at this this information. So let's take a look at it now.
On January 20th, 1993, William Jefferson Clinton became the 42nd President of the United States. At the time, most Americans were not aware of the extent of Clinton's criminal background, nor were they aware of the media blackout, which kept this information from the public. As State Attorney General and later Governor, Bill Clinton in 12 years achieved absolute control over the political, legal, and financial systems of Arkansas. Attempt to do the same with the nation by bringing members of his inner circle with him to Washington. The hijacking of America was underway, and its impact on future generations would be incalculable.
He apparently has always had an exceptional, keen mind, a keen intellect. And he has, he early, evidently, had tremendous ambitions. He was gifted in so many ways. The truth is, he's one of the most charming men that I've ever met in my life. He has more energy than any 10 people I've ever known. He was able to network himself into running for Attorney General virtually unopposed.
When you think about Bill Clinton's aversion to the truth, you wonder if this is because of the lackadaisical moral background that he's had in this area. He lied about Rhodes, being a Rhodes Scholar. He never completed that and still said he was a Rhodes Scholar. He went to Moscow and did business with them against the United States government, and he wasn't challenged by the press about that. In Arkansas, while he was governor, he said he balanced the budget 11 times. He never did it once. Also, he said he didn't raise taxes, and he raised taxes 126 times.
He can accommodate any situation that comes up because he's not hemmed in with the truth. I've never felt that Clinton, consciously or unconsciously, was hemmed in with morality.
For a place called the Arkansas Development Finance Authority, and they said my talents could really be used there. It was the best kept secret in Arkansas. After about 2 weeks, I went to Wooten Epps, and I said, Wooten, I think I've got enough background on this that we can start marketing it. Now, what is the criteria for loans? He said, whoever Bill wants to get a loan. To go back, though, to that moment in time, I'd been there about a month, and I realized that I was in the epicenter of what I'd always heard about all my life. What most people have heard about is the machine. I was literally working, sitting in the middle of Bill Clinton's political machine. It was where he made payoffs, where he repaid favors to people for campaign support. I was in an interesting seat, and I knew it. We had a board meeting. In that particular board meeting, I was sitting at the end of the table. James Brannion, who was chairman of the board at that time, was sitting at the head of the table. I said, did you get the $50,000 campaign contribution from the client that you're introducing the loan for? He said, not yet. He said, well, then hold up the loan until we get it. I stood up, went up to James, and I said, James, don't yell stuff like that. You don't need to be yelling it in a restaurant. That sounds real bad. He was just burly and arrogant. He said, who cares?
Bill Clinton sold the concept of ADFA to the people of Arkansas as a vehicle for creating jobs and assisting churches and schools. In reality, millions of taxpayer-guaranteed dollars were being channeled to Clinton's election campaigns, to his inner circle of friends, and to his wife Hillary's law firm. This may explain why ADFA had been drafted in such a manner as to keep its decision-making procedures secret.
There were 5 other companies in the state of Arkansas that were actually more qualified in bond structuring and applications, but Rose Law Firm got them all. I started checking around, and I kept asking, well, you know, one thing's bothering me to the comptroller, Bill Wilson, you know, how do people make payments on these loans? He looked at me and said, they don't. He thought I knew. Well, that blew my mind. And this is about 2 months in, and it was getting tough then. So I started gathering the documents. After everybody left, I would stick around as if I were working on the annual report. That would give me access to all the documents, and I made copies of them all. For about 2 months, I watched accounts accumulate money. At the end of the month, they zero balanced.
So we have graft and corruption, money laundering going out the door, lots of interesting things with both him and Hillary as far as the dissemination of cash to others that may or may not deserve it, and not having them pay any money back, lying to the people. If he did this on this level, what do you suppose he did on the national level? Let's go look at some more of these interesting facts.
During the Laster investigation, we had numerous witnesses for the federal grand jury, had extensive testimony. People that was connected with Laster and drug use and everything else. His cocaine use become used as a tool for sexual favors and also for business deals that influence people. And that's when Mr. Laster became quite flamboyant with his cocaine use, and then ultimately led to his arrest and conviction.
Dan Laster, who is the best friend of Bill Clinton, who went to jail with Roger Clinton for cocaine. And by the way, let me explain something. He didn't sell cocaine. No, they were giving it away. Huge piles of cocaine in his office. Ashtray upon ashtray full at the parties, and they would give it to young girls. That's sick. I mean, they were giving a highly addictive drug to young girls.
One particular one comes to mind is a 14-year-old cheerleader out of North Little Rock. She was a virgin, and ultimately he ended up sent her to a physician of his. The physician put her on birth control pills. He used cocaine in order to ultimately she lost her virginity, and she got addicted to cocaine. And the last I heard of her, when we had her subpoenaed back to the federal grand jury, she was a hooker in Lake Tahoe.
Mr. Lassiter's cocaine involvement at times was very heavy. Then at times he was very cool, calm, mediocre. He was very careful, as all of them have been for quite some time.
Once he was convicted, he went to a minimum security prison, a holiday hotel we call them. He spent, I think it was 6 to 8 months, and he got out. Unbeknownst to anybody, Bill Clinton, the day after he got out, granted him a full and complete pardon. So if you think he's tough on crime, think about a man that pardons a man that gives cocaine to kids. Imagine this. Guess who did the audit and the evaluation of the application? Rose Law Firm. You guessed it. Who signed it? Webb Hubbell, Hillary Clinton.
In 1988, he successfully advanced the Ethics in Government Act, which required Arkansas legislators to report governmental conflicts of interest. Incredibly, this law specifically exempted Governor Bill Clinton, his appointees, and his relatives. Clinton's appointment of Hubbell to the U.S. Justice Department exemplified the administration's total disregard for legal ethics. Hubbell's hasty resignation in March 1994 for overbilling of Roe's clients was merely a ploy to remove Hubbell from the limelight.
They were being shipped to MENA. We find out that the nose cones were actually being used to smuggle dope back into the country. And what is scary, what's so scary, it's the same cast of characters. Webb Hubbell, the Rose Law Firm, are guilty, I say to you, of conspiring to defraud the state of Arkansas, the federal government, and conspired to solicit the sales and the laundering of money for illegal drugs. This is your president. This is his circle of power. These are the people, when he got elected president, he did not pass go. He took them straight to Washington with him. And by all things holy, I think he was planning to set up and do the same thing in Washington.
They've all said Bill Clinton did drugs. They saw him. I've talked to a lot of other people who have all, just like the people at the apartment complex, said, hey, John, get us to a congressional hearing. Yes, we'll sign sworn affidavits. These people want to be sure when they come forward that something's done about it because they fear for their life, but they really want the truth.
The governor needs about $5 grand transferred to his travel account so he can go see his ladies. And we would at ADFA transfer $5,000 to $10,000 for him to go see his girlfriends in either L.A. or New York. He'd use so much travel money to go see women out of his regular travel budget, he would even have to borrow money from ADFA, not to mention the fact that ADFA's budget was not quite as scrutinized as the governor's budget. But he literally used money, ADFA money, the people of Arkansas, taxpayers' money, to conduct liaisons.
During the 1990 Arkansas gubernatorial race, Larry Nichols, in a last-ditch attempt to alert the public, boldly filed a lawsuit against Bill Clinton. As expected, the lawsuit was eventually quashed, sealed, and illegally dismissed by a Clinton-appointed judge. Following her attempt to go public, Ms. Perdue lost her job and started receiving threatening phone calls and letters. Live ammunition was found on the seat of her car, and the rear window of her vehicle was shot out. Even though a number of witnesses have corroborated her story, the American press has refused to print it. During the 1992 presidential campaign, interviews with ABC and NBC, as well as an appearance on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, were taped, but were never aired.
She had actually been on the Sally Jesse Raphael show right after the New York primary. Did you know the TV stations around the country blacked out that program and wouldn't show it?
In December 1993, former bodyguards of Bill Clinton came forward with detailed information regarding the governor's sexual. Regina Blakely landed a job with CBS National in Washington covering the White House. Likewise, Deborah Mathis secured a lucrative job with the White House press corps. Susan Whitaker was made the liaison between the Arkansas State Capitol and the White House. Elizabeth Ward obtained a position with the Clintons' close friends, Hollywood producers Harry Thomason and Linda Bloodworth Thomason.
I know Bill Clinton probably as well as anybody. We used to train him on how to look straight into a camera and lie through his teeth. And you see, part of Bill's pathological lying is the fact that we've taught him how to believe the lie that he's telling. And once he believes the lie, then he can sell it to you as the truth. The world is at risk when the commander-in-chief of the United States of America is a man that will look at another government, who will make trade deals and lie. It's the nerve and audacity that those two people, Bill and Hillary Clinton, have to shred documents, to destroy evidence in a federal case.
That is why we're here in front of the Rose Law Firm, because of the works of darkness that have gone on. Documents have been shredded here. What else has gone on here? I'm telling you, there are people inside this building that right now they're saying, if they only knew, if they only knew.
In fact, he was handling the Clintons' personal legal matters while he was in the position of assistant to the president in violation of a conflict of interest at that time.
From the outset, the investigation into the death of Vince Foster has been marred by controversy. Patsy Thomason, White House Administration Director and former assistant to cocaine distributor Dan Lassiter, and Margaret Williams, Hillary Clinton's chief of staff.
Patsy Thomason was the top aide for Dan Lassiter when he was running his company and doing all the dope. You can only say that she was there taking care of Dan Lassiter's interest in the White House. Lots of people that come to me that want to tell the truth. They come to me, but they're afraid. They're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of family members or themselves being hurt. Don't be afraid anymore. Bill Clinton doesn't own the world. He doesn't scare me.
Since the election of Bill Clinton in 1992, we Americans, with sadness, have learned week after week to have different stories come out from around the country pointing up the reality that we have in the White House today, a draft-dodging womanizer who is a pathological liar. It's a very dangerous thing for America and a dangerous thing for the world.
So we have graft, corruption, greed, international crime in general. So we have this crazy man and his wife who are both guilty of conspiring and laundering money and basic deception. And we're trying to put this woman and him back in the White House to, what, rip us off more? This is not acceptable. You hear that, Hillary? Not acceptable. You're an evil, evil person. You want to know how evil? Take a look at this. And now the deaths related to this whole thing. Ed Wiley, suicide, 11:30. Herschel Friday, Clinton's presidential campaign, plane crash. Interesting. Ronald Rogers, interviewing for this particular documentary, plane crash. Kathy Ferguson, former wife of Clinton bodyguard, suicide on 5/11/94. Her, Kathy Ferguson's, look at that, 6/12/94, suicide, interesting. Calvin Walraven, police informant, suicide. And we got Alan Witcher, yeah, former Clinton bodyguard, Oklahoma City blast. Ooh. Okay, so now we know that we have these two people they call the Clintons who are totally evil. They seem to be complicit in many people's deaths and probably a lot of people's livelihoods and futures, and probably more than we'll ever know. They basically are evil. So you know what? If you are supporting Hillary for this election, you need to have your head examined, among other things. So, you know, I'm no fan of Bernie's either, but Hillary is a definite evil, and that is one that we have to keep out of the White House. Again, especially because who knows who else is going to die at the end of all this. And what are they up to these days? That's the big question. So, thanks for joining us on Right to Know, and we'll see you next time. Take care, folks.
It's your right to know. Your right to know. Your right to know.